Hello and welcome to this little Legend of Korra Book Free review series that I'm going to be doing as the episodes roll out. So these first few episodes, the first 3 episodes that aired, are A Breath of Fresh Air, Rebirth and the Earth Queen. So I've decided, seeing as I can do more consistent video content now, that every time a new one of these episodes comes out, I think they're coming out in pairs for this season, I'll just do a spoiler-filled, keep that in mind, so everything up until the most recent episodes that have aired, not the leaked ones. I won't mention those at all. I haven't seen them. But yeah, spoiler-filled reviews for the episodes as they come out. So yeah, I just think it'd be interesting because I'm sure most of you know how I feel about the Avatar series. Like, I love the original series. It was my first episode for the animation archives. Adore it. Think it's one of the best TV shows ever made. So I might as well actually recap my thoughts on the rest of Legend of Korra before I launch into my opinions of on Book 3, because I haven't actually mentioned how I feel about Legend of Korra on the animation archives at all. So Book 1, you get introduced to Korra, you get introduced to Mako, Bolin, Asami, Tenzin, all that. I think Book 1 is a really strong season of television, primarily because the antagonist for that series, Amon, is one of the most morally questionable, not morally questionable, that's the wrong way of saying it, just morally ambiguous of this world that we've seen so far. That's what I meant. Because Fire Lord Ozai was pretty much the final boss of the original series. Like, his influence, like the way he influences other characters is more interesting than Fire Lord Ozai himself. So his effect on Zuko is more interesting than Ozai himself and Azula and so forth. Azula was a really good, compelling antagonist. I prefer her to Fire Lord Ozai. I think she's the more interesting character. But Amon was really something that Avatar hadn't attempted before. A villain that was not only terrifying, but kind of had a point. Like, there is a kind of weird bender privilege thing going on in the world of Avatar. So that was the best thing about Book 1. Don't think I'm as attached to the cast of characters, so Bolin, Mako and Asami, simply because we haven't really had time to really flesh them out, because Book 1 and Book 2 have had like really urgent plots. Less so with Book 1, actually. The first half of Book 1, there was a lot of time to get to know them, but compared to the long stretches of time in the original series where it was dedicated to characterization, yeah, we kind of haven't had that much time to just sit and be with the characters in Korra. Korra's really well defined and established. Don't think I like her as much as Aang, but I do think she is a strong character. Tenzin, interestingly enough, I think a lot of the older characters like Tenzin and Lin Beifong are actually stronger than the Team Avatar, the Team Avatar equivalent. Unfortunately, Bolin and Mako and Asami at this point just aren't as compelling as Toph, as Katara, as Sokka. Just for me, that is. But it seems like Book 3 is going to change that, and I'll get into that later. Book 2 is really inconsistent. I think some of the episodes are fantastic, like Beginnings, Part 1 and Part 2. Those episodes that give you the origin story of the Avatar were visually some of the best animation I've seen on television. They're clearly drawing a lot from Princess Mononoke and Studio Ghibli's work with those 2 episodes. And I thought one was a really compelling character. He's kind of just like a mix between Aladdin from Disney's Aladdin and Ashitaka from Princess Mononoke, but that worked. It worked. I thought he was a great addition to the lore of Avatar. But all the others, it was, book 2 was just really inconsistent. Like, it was all over the place. The plot went from really urgent to we were kind of wasting time here. Like, the first few episodes were like, oh, this is setting up something really interesting, and then it kind of didn't. Like, the biggest problem with book 2 is the antagonist, which is weird because in book 1 the strongest attribute was the antagonist. Unalaq is just evil. That was his motivation, and then all the way through the series, it felt like they were hinting at the fact that he was going to be more compelling, that there was going to be like this secret motivation with him. But no, he was just evil, and then you had the evil dark spirit, Vaatu, who's just the darkest shade of black as well. But, like, negative stuff aside, book 2 being inconsistent in terms of quality and having a bad antagonist, where it leaves the world of Avatar at the end is... what's the word? It's exciting. That's the word. It's really exciting because it changes the rules. Like, it fundamentally changes what's happening in that world. So basically what happened at the end of book 2 is Vaatu tries to escape from his spirit prison in the spirit world, and in order to do that he has to open the gates, the 2 gates into the spirit world, so that harmonic convergence can happen, so he can get free. But once Vaatu and Unalaq were defeated at the end of season 2, Korra decides to leave these gates open so that the spirit world and the human world are permanently connected to each other again. And that leads into some interesting things happening in book 3, one of which is all these vines that have appeared all over the place. So yes, the episodes the episodes we're going to talk about book 3 are A Breath of Fresh Air, Rebirth, and the Earth Queen. And one of the consequences of Korra leaving the spirit doors open last season is that all these vines have been cropping up everywhere, these giant vines, and they're just all over Republic City, and the spirits live there. So these are the vines are the spirits' home, and Korra just can't get rid of them. She tried firebending, she's tried using the spirit technique that Unalaq taught her last season to get rid of them. That doesn't work. In fact, it makes the situation worse. But so it doesn't seem like book 3 is going to focus on that for the first half at least, because it's introduced as a plot point, and then we kind of leave it. And I'm sure it will be reintroduced later in this season. But for the moment, what we're actually going to focus on, and this is the objective of Team Avatar at the moment, is to find all these new airbenders that are showing up. So, right, like from the first scene of the first episode that aired, Boomy starts airbending, and you're like, whoa, okay, now I understand why book 3 is called Change, because this is a huge change. You know, up until now, it's only been Aang's family who could airbend. So the thing I like about this, having airbenders, finding all the airbenders, trying to rebuild the air nomad civilization as the objective. The reason why I really like that is that it's an objective that doesn't have a high level of urgency. we've had objective, like book 2, I think its biggest problem is that everything had a high level of urgency. Everything had to be done now. Everything had to be achieved quickly. Like, you know, harmonic convergence is going to happen within this timescale, so we have to figure things out before it happens. So everything was like, get here quick, and like there were high stakes to everything as well. Like, if they don't stop harmonic convergence or try and, you know, be prepared for Vaatu before harmonic convergence, the world will end. And like, whoa, this is high stakes, high urgency storytelling. But this objective, it's important, but it's not urgent. And the stakes aren't like, if they don't do this, it's not like the world will end or what have you. It's just really beneficial if they do. So you've got like this really important task that the writers have given to Team Avatar, but they can take their time. Like, the airbenders aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon, so what that allows the writers to do is have moments of the characters where it's just characterization, which was missing from book 1 and book 2, I think, for the most part. And also have those moments not feel like, why are we doing this when the world's at stake? Because the world isn't at stake. They can take their time. So there are several, like, one moment I really liked was Asami and Korra talking to each other in the car. You should know what... I'm not going to update... Like, if you're watching this video, you should know what's been going on in Korra, so I'm not going to give a full recap of all the events that happened through book 1 and book 2, but you should know that, you know, Korra and Mako broke up towards the end of book 2. And, you know, Asami and Korra have both had relationships with Mako, and they have a conversation about their relationship with Mako and how they feel towards each other. It's a really mature conversation, and they have they come to a really reasonable conclusion about how they feel about Mako and how they feel about each other, and I was really impressed. Like, it would be so easy to have those two be at conflict with each other, and they don't choose to do that. In fact, their relationship between each other is actually much stronger than either of their relationship is with Mako right now. So that I really like that. What else? This doesn't happen until much later on, so I'm kind of skipping ahead here. But you get to see Bolin and Mako's family in Ba Sing Se. And you get to see them reconnect with that side of themselves, and it's kind of bittersweet because there's the warmth of knowing that they've got this huge family that they didn't really know about, but also the fact that this side of their family didn't know that their parents had been killed. So it's like a mixture between, like, you know, there's an emotional mixture going on there where they're happy to see this new group of people that they have such an intimate connection with, but also having to give them such terrible news. So what else? We covered the airbending, which the airbending coming back, which I like. I think that's a cool idea. Just having the airbending come back, full stop, I think is a cool idea because I think it kind of makes sense. They haven't really detailed how it's happening, and I'm sure that's going to be revealed as the season goes on. They're assuming that it has something to do with the spirit world and the human world reconnecting with the spirit world, and that's fine with me as an explanation. I think that totally makes sense, as it, you know, the spirits, or not really the spirit, the lion turtles, but I assume the lion turtles are spiritual in nature. The spirits are kind of responsible for humans having, having bending at all. So it makes sense that by connecting the spirit world and the human world, the spirit world will try and reassert the balance that has been off kilter for so long since airbending has gone extinct. Not extinct, become a really rare skill because only Tenzin and his family can do it. So that's a really interesting plot point. I like that Korra has really evolved as a character. It felt like, and I'm not the only one, I think a lot of people had this complaint, that Korra kind of regressed towards the end of, towards the beginning, sorry, of book 2, and she had to go through the exact same journey she had already been through character-wise in book 2. But now it seems like Korra's Korra now. She's matured. She's still high-strung. She's still angry, but her anger feels like it's directed towards good causes now. She doesn't get angry at anything, any old thing. She gets angry when it's justified, which is good to see. She has Aang's staff, which is... I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I wish... One of the complaints, if I was going to level a complaint at Korra, is I think it does rely a little too much on nostalgia to garner fans' favour. But whatever. Like, that staff is cool and it's clearly useful, so she can have it if she wants it. But I kind of feel like that's Aang's thing, and I'd rather Korra just have her own thing, as it were. Yeah, I like Marco. I think is where he is. I kind of briefly mentioned him already, but where he is being really awkward around Asami and Korra, that makes sense, and I don't think that's going to be resolved anytime soon. I really hope that they stick to their guns and keep Korra and Marco apart, because I don't think they really work as a relationship. I don't think that relationship's healthy. So that's interesting. There was a scene where Tenzin was staring at Aang's statue, and he was talking about like the airbenders coming back and wishing his father could see this, and that was really moving, and his kids were there. And because I think it was an interesting contrast of having him like understand the weight of the airbenders coming back and being moved to tears by it, and the kids being like kind of weirdly, like, they understand that it's important because they're kids, the weight of it doesn't quite hit them in the same way. Just having the contrast of those two reactions was really yeah, it was just really well done. I'm using a lot of superlatives, but sorry, I'm doing this review off the top of my head mostly, so forgive me. Oh yeah, I should mention the awesome airship that Asami has given Team Avatar to go and find all these airbenders. That reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy VII, weirdly, because you have this, party of really compelling characters going off on an adventure in this huge airship. It's like weirdly reminiscent of a Final Fantasy game. Yeah, going back to the Airbender quest, one of the things I thought was really realistic was that the Airbenders aren't just going along with them to help rebuild the air nomad civilization. They have families, they have responsibilities, and some of them just don't like the idea of the air nomad lifestyle. So, like starting out the adventure with yeah, we're going to rebuild the nation, and then having the realization as, oh no, this is going to be much more difficult than we thought, and also possibly, and this is kind of how I feel, maybe we should just move on. Like, I think airbending coming back is super crucial and important, but does the air nomad culture need to come back? I don't know. I'm kind of the of the view that cultures and civilizations and stuff should constantly evolve and grow and so forth. I'm not very. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to. I don't want to get too heavy on this video review blog, but I'm all for cultural evolution and integrating new cultures and stuff like that. So I don't know how I feel about trying to raise this culture from the dead. Anyway, move on. I'll express more detailed opinions on that when I get more of that stuff in later episodes. So we get so towards the end of the first episode and throughout the second and the third episode, we get introduced to the villains of this season. We're only really seeing them escape from prison so far. They haven't really done anything apart from that. But so the characters are... Sorry, I'm reading this off my screen. The characters are Zahir, who was a non-bender and becomes an airbender, and that kind of kickstarts his... he wasn't able to escape before, but now he's developed airbending, so he can escape from his cell now, and he goes off and frees all the others. So he's got this philosophical kind of thing going on. Like, he quotes like ancient philosophers, and that's interesting. I can't really talk about them in detail other than what their abilities are, because we haven't really got a sense of who they are yet. Like, Zahir's the only one who we've got like a hint of who he is. Like, we know he's like really philosophical, and he's clearly an intelligent guy. And I think that's what's most threatening about him, is that they've locked him up in this prison before he was a bender. So he must be like some kind of mastermind, like really intelligent guy who, and it's clear why he's the leader of this group of really powerful benders, because like he for a non-bender he must be like really formidable and just be able to come up with all these plans. And so I'm speculating here, but it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. Oh, sorry about the quick video edit there. My camera stopped recording briefly. So, where were we? The villains, right. So, I talked about Zahir. So they're the other ones. There's Gazon, who's an airbender who can turn earth into lava, which I'm glad they've clarified the fact that earthbenders control lava, not firebenders. Because lava is liquid earth. So if waterbenders can control ice and steam, then earthbenders control lava. So I'm glad they've cleared that up. Minghua, what's interesting about her is she doesn't have any arms, but she uses waterbending as to create like arm constructs out of water, that's cool. It's been a while since we've had a disabled character in this series. Toph being one of the best characters in this universe, so it's nice to see another differently abled character in this world again. And then there's Pali. I haven't. Yeah, I should really rewatch the episodes and get the name pronunciations right. But I believe it's Pali, who is basically Sparky Boom Woman, or Combustion Woman. We don't know much about her. She's still in prison, but she has the ability to blow up things with her mind, just like Combustion Man. So, yeah. They haven't really done much, the villains. It's all kind of been set up so far, which is fine with me. Take your time, establish the characters, and then get on with the plot. We also see Zuko, who is concerned about the fact that these guys are escaping. That was really... I don't know. I'm conflicted about Zuko being in this season. Mainly because I'm worried as to why they're bringing him in. Is it just nostalgia, or is he going to serve an important role? Also, Dante Bosco is Zuko for me now. So it's a bit weird seeing a different voice actor play Zuko. But we'll see. We've hardly seen him, so they might do something really cool with that character. He's definitely one of my favourite characters, Zuko, from the original series, so we'll see how that goes. Also, returning to the Airbender journey, we get introduced to a new character called Kai, who is a little boy. He's a lovable little scamp. He's a liar. He's a thief, though, which is terrible. So he lies about his parents being killed by bandits and stuff like that, and he's trying to run away with his foster parents' lifelong savings, and so Team Avatar kind of agree to take him on board their ship and teach him how to use airbending. But he's still like this character who's kind of like, oh, where does his loyalties lie? And the show ends with him running away from Team Avatar, starting to steal people's money from Ba Sing Se. We'll talk about Ba Sing Se in a minute. And then he gets captured by the Dai Li. Talk about them in a minute. And he's thrown in prison, and they're talking about like setting up an airbender army. And that's where we leave that character. We haven't had much of him, but he seems compelling so far. So let's talk about the returning to the Earth Kingdom. So the Earth Kingdom's basically turned into North Korea. Like, Ba Sing Se is in a sorry state. And I love the way they shoot that scene where you're coming, like the airship's approaching Ba Sing Se and the music's swelling up and you're like, oh my god, we're going back to Ba Sing Se, isn't this awesome? And then you see the poorer districts and it's like, oh, it's miserable and it's horrible, and you're like, ooh, what's happened to the Earth Kingdom? It's even worse than it was before, and like before it was pretty corrupt. So yeah, and then you see the richer districts, and like we saw the palace before. It was lavish, but it wasn't, like it's really golden and clearly well, the area around it is really well moneyed. So there's this huge wealth divide going on in Ba Sing Se now, which is like really horrible. And the Earth Queen is terrible person, great character, terrible person. She just, it's revealed that she's basically taxing the citizens of the Earth Kingdom way too much, and that's why there's this huge wealth divide. She's basically taking all the money. And Korra stands up to her about it and confronts her about it, but approaches it maturely. She's a world leader. You can't just attack her, which was nice to see. Korra's approaching the situation intelligently. And also the Earth Queen has been capturing any airbenders that pop up in her area and, putting them in prison, and she's going to train them to be a part of this Earth airbender army. So that's scary. So the Earth Queen, I think it's pretty clear she's going to be like a secondary villain for this season. Again, it's set up, so there's not much I can talk about. Yeah, and that kind of really covers the first 3 episodes. Really, a lot of setup, but it's all going in an exciting direction, I think. I like that the show is taking its time to establish characters. There's time for character moments. The plot isn't overly urgent at the moment. I'm sure it will become urgent later on. But I like that it's taking its time to establish things. I feel really positively about Book 3 so far. Just on, in a general note, animation, gorgeous. Of course it is. Studio Mir, love them. And the music's great again. Track team doing a brilliant job. So that really sums up my opinion on the first 3 episodes. I'll see you next time for whatever episode that is. I know they're airing in pairs, so there'll be 2 episodes. Until next time, see you guys.